Breaking developments are shaking up Social Security news for September 2025, and millions of seniors are asking the same question right now. Will I be getting an extra $1,400 check? Or will I be left out? The IRS has confirmed that payback checks are being prepared, but there's a critical detail buried in the fine print: not everyone will qualify. This isn't just a rumor. It's a real update that could make the difference between financial relief and bitter disappointment. For retirees, disability beneficiaries, and low-income households depending on Social Security, the outcome of this announcement is nothing short of life-changing. Every senior watching needs to know exactly what's happening, who qualifies, and why some people will wake up to a surprise deposit while others won't see a single dollar. The curiosity surrounding this development is justified because of how closely it ties to past events. Over the last 5 years, Americans have seen a wave of stimulus checks, tax refunds, and financial adjustments that have shaped expectations. Each time a new payment is announced, it creates a surge of anticipation. Some remember the early pandemic relief checks that reached almost every household, while others recall the disappointment when certain groups were excluded. That historical memory is shaping how people see this $1,400 IRS payback. It is not just about one check, it is about fairness, inclusion, and whether the system recognizes the struggles of seniors and people with disabilities. The nature of the payment also makes it more complicated than traditional stimulus checks. A stimulus check was considered relief money, extra funds distributed quickly during emergencies. But this $1,400 payback is different. It's essentially the government returning money that was technically overpaid or due back through adjustments. That means it's tied heavily to tax filings, records, and financial paperwork. If your information is up to date, if you filed taxes even with low income, and if you meet income thresholds, you stand a good chance of qualifying. But if you missed filings, didn't report certain details, or had inconsistencies in your status, your name might not appear on the list of approved recipients. This is why the word payback feels both reassuring and concerning. It reassures those who expect to receive what they are owed, but it concerns those who know they've fallen through the cracks of the system before. The idea of fairness comes into play in a very personal way. Consider two seniors who live in the same neighborhood. Both depend on Social Security. Both struggle with rising costs, but one has kept their tax records current while the other has not filed in years. The first senior checks their account and sees an extra $1,400 deposit in September, while the second keeps waiting for money that never comes. On paper, the difference is technical. In reality, the second senior may feel abandoned, even though their need for relief is just as strong. Stories like these create frustration and fuel criticism of the system. Why should technicalities matter more than human need? The IRS has argued that rules must exist to prevent fraud, abuse, and incorrect payments. They point to past stimulus rollouts where some money went to people who didn't actually qualify. But for those living on fixed incomes, the explanation feels cold and distant. Seniors who spent decades paying into the system through taxes and labor don't understand why proving eligibility has to be so complex. This is why community organizations, advocates, and even local officials are urging seniors to double-check their information now. Making sure tax filings are complete, updating Social Security records, and verifying bank deposit details are all steps that could determine whether the $1,400 arrives on time or not at all. Timing also plays a significant role in why this announcement feels so dramatic. September is not just another month, it's when Social Security recipients often hear about cost of living adjustments, budget decisions, and new benefit updates. With inflation still keeping prices high, many were already hoping for good news. The idea of a $1,400 check arriving at the same time amplifies the anticipation. But then comes the reminder, not everyone qualifies. That phrase alone has turned what should be a moment of excitement into a stressful guessing game. People are asking themselves and each other, am I on the list? Did I file correctly? Will I be excluded again? This emotional roller coaster adds a layer of tension to what could have been a straightforward announcement. Another fascinating aspect of this situation is how political undertones have crept into the story. With elections always on the horizon, any announcement of payments or refunds is scrutinized for political motives. Supporters of the government may see the $1,400 checks as proof that leadership is listening to the needs of retirees and disabled Americans. Critics, however, argue that dangling relief with selective qualifications is unfair and divisive. They see it as a way to gain political favor while still leaving out millions of struggling households. Regardless of political interpretation, the human reality remains. $1,400 is a game changer for anyone surviving on fixed benefits. The details of how the money will be distributed are also causing discussion. Direct deposit is expected to be the fastest method, but not every senior has access to online banking. Paper checks could take weeks or even months to arrive, creating unequal timelines. Past experiences with stimulus checks showed that delays and errors were common. Some people received their money quickly, while others waited far longer due to mismatched records or outdated banking details. In extreme cases, checks were lost, forcing seniors to file claims and wait even longer. If the same issues occur with this payback, September's relief could easily stretch into October or November for some households. That uncertainty only adds to the stress. The impact of receiving, or not receiving, this $1,400 cannot be overstated. For some, it will mean breathing room, the ability to catch up on overdue bills, stock up on groceries, or cover medical expenses without skipping. For others, being excluded will mean another month of tough choices, such as whether to pay the electricity bill or refill a prescription. These are not minor inconveniences, they are life-defining decisions. The check itself may be labeled payback, but for the people waiting, it feels more like survival money. What often gets overlooked in discussions about payments like this is the psychological effect. Money is about more than transactions. It represents security, dignity, and the sense that the system acknowledges your struggle. When someone receives a $1,400 check, they feel seen and supported. When they don't, they feel invisible and forgotten. This emotional dimension explains why so many are anxiously tracking updates and searching for clarity. It's not just about paying bills, it's about reassurance in uncertain times. For those who are determined not to be left out, there is still a window of opportunity. Filing even a simple return, updating information with Social Security, and verifying bank details can make a real difference. Many seniors may believe it's too late, but the IRS often processes updates quickly if submitted correctly. Local nonprofits and community centers also provide free or low-cost help for seniors navigating the paperwork. Taking these steps before September could dramatically increase the likelihood of qualifying. The message is clear: being proactive is the key to inclusion. This entire situation is a powerful reminder of how fragile financial systems are for retirees and disabled Americans. Social Security was designed as a safety net, but over the years, it has struggled to keep pace with the cost of living. That's why announcements like this create such emotional waves. They remind us that many households are balancing on a thin line, where one check can change everything. The $1,400 payback may not seem like much in government terms, but to individuals, it represents security, stability, and a brief reprieve from financial stress. As September 2025 approaches, millions of eyes are on the IRS and Social Security Administration. The promise of $1,400 is both inspiring and stressful. Those who qualify will celebrate relief. Those who don't will feel excluded once again. And everyone, regardless of outcome, will walk away with a stronger sense of how complicated and imperfect the system has become. The truth is, this story is about much more than money. It's about trust, fairness, and the everyday fight to live with dignity on limited resources. So as the countdown continues, the question remains unresolved for many. Will you be among those who see $1,400 land in your account this September? Or will you be one of the many who discover they were excluded by the fine print? The answer depends on preparation, paperwork, and sometimes, a bit of luck. But what is certain is that this September will bring either relief or frustration, and no one can afford to ignore the stakes.